Ladies and gentlemen, welcome here to another episode of Dinner Guide. My name is Chef Andy and I'll be your host today. We are going to be working on a very simple yet exquisite dessert today. We are going to be making a white chocolate mousse. Without further ado, I'll introduce you to my ingredients. To my right, from the front here, I've got some eggs, I've got some white sugar, some beautiful whipping cream there, a bit of mint there just for garnish, a tiny bit of salt there, some beautiful shaved white chocolate. And that'll be all that we'll be working with today. So without further ado, do take this chance to grab your pens and papers if you're going to be taking notes, and I'll see you after the show. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just catching up, we're just about to start making a beautiful white chocolate mousse, which I'm going to be showing you on stage today. This happens to be a very beautiful dessert. It's actually a very common occurring dessert in very, very fine dining restaurants. But today I'm actually going to show you how to be able to do it from your very own home. To begin with the chocolate, it's a little easier now to be able to purchase chocolate in your regular outlets. So I'm sure you can be able to move around town and you should be able to find either white chocolate, dark chocolate, or milk chocolate. For this particular dish, we're going to be working with white chocolate. So without further ado, I'm going to first of all get a pan here going. And the pan that I have here, it's just I just have some water in there. And this is basically what I'll be using to temper the chocolate, which I'm going to show you now. So very, very simple technique. Just a bit of, just a regular pot, about a cup of water in there. Just get your water to boiling point and then drop your heat and leave it at simmering point. Simmering point being whereby the water just continues bubbling. And particularly this is crucial because you do have to control the temperature of melting your chocolate to ensure that you don't burn your chocolate. So it's actually crucial that you actually have your water at the right temperature before you start this process. So very, very simple. I'm just going to grab a glass bowl and I'm going to have it on the top there. If you don't have one of the bowls that I'm using today, you can actually be able to do the same thing with an aluminium or a stainless steel bowl. So please don't feel that you're probably not going to be able to do this with this same technique. One thing I recommend is if you're thinking of working with a plastic bowl, do go out there, do ask the people in the shops, ask your attendants for the best quality bowls that are actually able to resist the heat, and you should be able to find something a little more affordable than glass or stainless steel for that matter. So very, very simple. First step, I'm just going to pour my chocolate in here. So this is just a regular white chocolate. All I did is I grated it. I wanted it to be really fine because I do want it to melt a little faster. So very, very simple. We're just going to continue mixing that slowly. And I always recommend when you're melting or you're tempering your chocolate, please don't leave your bowl unattended and don't forget to mix your chocolate as well. Remember, the bowl gets hot from the bottom and the heat will not go all the way up. Remember, we are only just steaming the bowl from the bottom, so it's not directly on the heat. And in a span of less than a minute, you should be able to start seeing your chocolate starting to melt. And that's exactly the texture we are looking for. So I'm just going to continue mixing that for about another 2 minutes. And as you can be able to see, it just starts to slide on the sides of the bowl. And that's exactly what we are looking for. So points to check on when you're melting chocolate. Always remember, as soon as the lumps are gone and you can't be able to see any more lumps or any pieces of chocolate that haven't melted, then you know it's about time to stop. Right. So this is just the first stage of melting our chocolates. We're just turning it into a ganache now. And as you can see, the lumps are gone. The chocolate should actually be able to just roll off the side of your spoon like so. And all we are going to do now is turn the heat off, and I'm just going to leave that on the top there. Remember, because you control the temperature of your water, it's not really going to stay too hot, and it's just going to be just precise to keep your chocolate nice and runny until the process where you're about to start folding your cream in and everything else. So very, very simple technique. Now for the second step, we're going to be splitting some eggs. Remember, we're working with mousse, so we're not going to be using the whole egg. We only need the egg yolks. So the first process, of course, is to separate your eggs. And I find it a little easier to do it by hand like this. Right, and all we do is transfer that into a bowl on the side. And remember, for this particular technique, there are very many uses for the egg whites that you have reserved. So please don't end up chucking this down the drain. You can actually reserve this. You can use it even for making anything in relation to coating. You can actually also just cook it as it is, and you can actually make a white omelette from it. So please remember, don't discard the egg whites once you're done with them. Always reserve them. You might be able to use them a little later. So very simple as that. And all I'm going to do now is, so remember, there's particularly for this dish, it's all a matter of timing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to whip my cream. So this is just regular whipping cream. It's about half a cup. And all I'm going to do now is get that to stiff mix. So if you do have an electric mixer or an electric hand mixer, this is it's actually very applicable. But for the reasons of those people who might not be able to have these machines at home, I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way, so that you can actually be able to see the easiest way of doing it, and you can actually do your own research and come up with a few other different techniques you can incorporate, which would be now include using your machinery. So I'm just going to whip that quickly. So definitely something to remember when you're whipping cream. Definitely there's stages to whipping cream. You do have your soft peaks, you do have your firm peak, and you do have this very, very stiff one that basically when you do get to that stage, it does look like clotted cream. We're not going to be whipping that too long. So I'm just going to show you a few checkpoints you need to pay attention to when you're doing this. So this actually is not a very difficult way to whip your cream. I find it a little convenient and a little more fun, especially making dessert, because it is a dessert. It's a very, very simple dish, and as you can see, it does take a very, very small amount of energy and just a little bit of interest and passion, and you can be able to do the same thing yourselves. Right. So this is about a minute away. I'm just gonna keep whipping that for about another 30 seconds. So I'm basically looking for a stage where the cream should be able to hold on to the bowl when I turn it over. Right, that should be now just about okay. So as you can see, even if I tilt my bowl upside down, it should be able to hold onto the bowl. It shouldn't slide out. This is one of the checkpoints you should be able to remember when making your mousse at home. Right, so simple as that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rest my cream in the fridge for a few seconds. And then we're just going to go straight into whipping our egg white. Remember, egg white does have some very, very beautiful properties. It actually allows your mousse to really hold together really well. It does give you that light fluffiness, and at the end of it, you will actually be able to feel the lightness of the dessert once it's done. Right. So just going to empty a bit of the water that's still in that bowl, and always remember not to try and whip anything in a bowl with a bit of water in there, it actually might make your work a little harder. So I'm now going to pour in my egg whites. To that, I'm just going to be adding just a pinch of salt. One particular reason that I'm adding salt to this dish is, first of all, it does give the eggs a bit of stability, which you'll be able to see in a little bit. So I'm just going to get that. So remember, it is something that you do learn you do get used to with time, especially whipping by hand. And is why I actually insisted that I will show you the most difficult way to do it, but if you do own a commercial mixer, or if you have a handheld blender, it will actually help you quite a bit. And something that I have happened to see in the past, you might be looking forward to be making a mousse, and maybe your power is out and your machine is not going to work. But if you do have a whisk around, this actually should be a little more convenient for you. And I actually use the same technique all the time. So I'm just going to continue whipping that. This should take about roughly between 6 to 7 minutes. So as you can see, this is now the foamy stage of the egg white, so it starts to look like soapy foam. So this is the first stage that you need to pay attention to. And basically from here you just continue whisking, and your egg whites will continue firming up while you continue whipping with your wire whisk. And remember, if you do have a wire whisk or you have one that's plastic like the one I have to my right, they all work the same way. So please don't feel left out if you have one or you have both. You can actually use them and they'll give you the same result. Alright, so this is almost done. Just going to continue whipping for a few seconds. And do also get accustomed to also whipping with both hands. I always find it easier because it does allow you to rest one arm and you can be able to work with both arms. But as I said, it is something that you build over time. Right, so this is now almost getting to the soft peak stage. So a few techniques I could also share with you about making a mousse. Mousses are very much a classic dessert, very much a French originated dessert. Of course, with time, there's been a bit of modifications that have come with time, so you do actually manage to find mousses these days that are made even from vegetable puree. You do also get mousses that are savory and sweet. So please don't be obligated to feel that you can make a mousse only from chocolate. So remember, if you do also have maybe some leftover mango, you could puree that. Just be sure to make sure to take as much liquid out of it as possible. And do also make sure that you use ripe mangoes which are not too acidic, which are not going to affect the quality of your product. So this is now almost there. And all I'm going to do now is add another small pinch of salt. This is just to stabilize the egg whites. And you can actually also add a bit of vinegar, it will still do the same thing. So you can be able to see now it's starting to look like very, very thick soap. So this is the soft peak stage. So and what the stage we're looking for is about a few seconds away, which is basically the firm peak, and I'll show you that just now. And it's just basically the same technique of watching, just like I did with the cream. Just keep whipping it, and at the moment you can be able to turn your bowl upside down and your mixture stays in the bowl, you definitely know you're on the right track. Alright, so this is now nice and fluffy, it's almost done. And then also be sure to make sure that when you're whipping, continue with the same direction of whipping. It actually gives a very consistent result, and it also makes sure that you actually remove any chances of your egg splitting up. Remember one particular thing with egg whites, you might whip them and they might look this good, but in a room that's a little hot, what could possibly happen is your egg might actually split and you could have a bit of water running at the bottom. So always insist for this particular stage, always do it when you're still fit and you still have the energy. And also another thing to remember, cream will whip a little faster than egg whites, so be sure to start with your egg whites if you feel that you're a little tired, because this might take a little longer than the cream. Actually, it always takes a little longer. Alright, that's just about done. And the reason I'm basically tilting my bowl, this is just for me to be able to actually get my whisk to go right around. So the technique is not just taking your whisk around, it's actually dipping it and lifting. And basically this is where you actually incorporate air into your egg whites. And that is exactly how you get your eggs to whip a little faster. And remember, particularly for bowls that are ceramic or metallic, they do actually allow you to whip a little better. If you're using a plastic bowl, it might be a little tricky. Alright, so now our egg whites are just about doubled in size. So this actually normally doubles in about 2.5 times. Right, and this is now done. So as I said, just like we did the checkpoint to the cream, same thing with the egg whites. I can be able to turn my bowl upside down and the mixture is perfectly still in the bowl. Alright, so now we're just going to come back to this side and I'll show you the combining stage of the whole mixture. And basically the technique we're using is basically called folding. Folding because we are not really mixing, we're just turning it and turning it continuously until we get a consistent mixture. So first thing I'll do is I'm going to start with my zabayon, which is basically my egg and sugar. I'm just going to continue whipping that. So this should just be this particular stage, you should actually be very careful not to leave any granules in your mixture. So you do actually have to take quite a bit of precaution when when whipping this. And I always recommend, please don't add all the sugar at once. Remember, if it's all in there, you can't be able to whip, and your eggs also can't your eggs might not be able to take in all the sugar all at once. So we're just going to whip that a little longer. This is just particularly to make sure that you don't have granules in your mixture. Wow, and it does actually get a little hot, and as I said, it is a bit of a tiring process, so please also make sure to have a little tissue on the side there just to get that excess sweat off your face. Remember, you don't really want to be serving a dessert with droplets of sweat inside your mixture. Right, so this is starting to look consistent now. As you can see, it starts to change into a custardy looking. You can be able to see it starts to look like a custard mixture. It's just starting to thicken now. I'm just going to continue whipping that. adding my sugar slowly until all my sugar is incorporated. Right, so this is already looking very okay. Now I'll just direct your attention back to the white chocolate, and as I said, the beauty of leaving it on top of your saucepan, as you can see, the chocolate hasn't gone solid, it's still runny, and that's the particular texture you're looking for. Right, so we're just going to take now the bowl off the pan there, and I'm just going to add my egg yolk and sugar mixture in here. And be sure not to waste. Take your time to actually clean out that bowl. Remember, pastries are very much a complex technique of cooking, because first of all, it's very precise, which means from the point you start making your dessert, remember, pastry is very much about quantities, and basically you definitely don't want to ruin your recipe by trying to break the norm and ruining the recipe by trying to do it different. Right, so that's now nicely mixed up, and now I'm just going to take you into the folding stage. So I'm just gonna try and get that excess from my whisk. Simple as that. So at this point, I'm just going to grab my whipped cream that we whipped a little earlier, and now basically all we are going to be doing now is folding everything together. So I'm going to start first of all with my cream. It's a little thicker, and remember, as I said, the egg whites are basically just to lighten the mixture, so that's definitely folded in last. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to continue taking my spoon right around the sides like that. Remember, as I mix, I'm basically turning my spoon around and around the bowl. So be sure to also spin your spoon a little, give it a few turns while you're mixing your ganache and your egg yolk mixture, and your zabayon mixture, that's the egg yolks and the sugar. And this should just start to turn into a nice consistent liquid. So remember, the particular reason why we melted our chocolate, this is to make sure that it continues to stay runny and it doesn't melt or it doesn't solidify in between the process. I'm just going to mix that a little more. Remember, I can still be able to see a few lumps in there, and that's basically what you want to watch out for. You don't really want to compromise your dessert by leaving those lumps in there. Right, so once you have this particular stage to that point, only thing that's left off now is to fold in your egg whites. So I'm going to grab about half that mixture, and all I'm going to do now is start to fold. So basically, as I said, I'm just turning the spoon around. Remember, I'm not mixing it. One thing you will notice, if you do decide to mix it continuously, just like you'll be mixing a sauce, you will actually take out all the air, all the incorporated air that's in your egg whites, and all you're gonna end up with is a running mixture, and that's exactly what you're trying to avoid. So it does look like a mess when you start, and it does look like it won't mix, but with a bit of patience, this will all be a consistent mixture, as you're going to see now. And as I always insist, always give your bowl a few turns as you're mixing. It actually allows you to cover a bit more surface area and keeps the consistency alive. Alright, simple as that. And now I'm just going to pour in the rest of our egg whites. And And as I said, always take your time to empty your bowl. Please don't rush through it because you're hoping not for your mixture not to fall. Do take your time to empty your bowl completely. Remember, as I said, pastries are very much about precision, so you don't really want to compromise your dish by leaving any excess mixture wasted. So this now starts to double up, and you should be able to notice that the mixture will start to be a little lighter as you mix. You can actually be able to feel it in the spoon itself. And basically, ladies and gentlemen, that is the last stage of the mixing process. And basically what we're going to be doing after this now, we're just going to move this into a bowl or some display cups. If you have some, you can actually be able to pour this into a glass, chill it overnight or chill it a few hours before dinner. So this is something, if you're, for instance, going to be serving dinner at 8 p.m., you could probably have this mixture mixed up, ready and chilling in your fridge by about 5 o'clock. 3 hours should give you enough time to set your mousse. And of course, this would be in a fridge that's sitting anywhere between 0 and 2 degrees centigrade. Right, so as you can be able to see now, the mixture starts to look like a porridge, and you can see all the egg whites are all disappeared in there, so it definitely just comes into one consistent mixture. And now, because I'm looking at serving this directly from the bowl or from the glass, I'm just going to show you a few different glasses you can work with. I particularly like to work with wine glasses. You can also be able to use something small as that, if especially you're making it for kids. It's always good to portion them out in advance. Now basically all I'm going to do now is pour the mixture into the glass, and we're just going to set it in the fridge. So be sure to be very careful while you're pouring it in. Remember, as I said, it's about trying to keep your work clean, and you might not be able to wipe the container or your bowl or your glass immediately after. Right, simple as that. So it should be a very runny mixture in the beginning, but remember, this is going to take some time in the fridge. It is going to set, and you will be able to see the result right after. Right. Now I still have a bit of mixture, and remember, as I said, pastry is all about saving. And cooking is always also about not wasting. So I'm just going to use a third glass, and I'm just going to pour the rest of the mixture in there. And that is now done. And now all that's left is now to throw this in the fridge and chill it out. And I do have some that we did earlier, so we will take a break now. Do take a rest, do refreshen, and when we come back, we're going to pull them out, and I'm going to show you what the previous one looked like, and we're just going to finish off. See you after the shot. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For those who missed out on what we were making today, we were making a very, very simple white chocolate mousse. I do have some that I have setting in the fridge, and I'm just going to take them out now, and you're going to be able to see what they look like. So we're just going to rush this way quickly. Right. So these have been sitting for about 3 to 4 hours in the fridge. They're now set. They're very, very much ready to go. So the smallest things you can be able to do to a pastry dish is always just, like, as you can see yourselves, it looks very, very plain as it is, and it always makes a little bit of a difference when you really put a touch to it just to finish it off. And for that, I'm going to be using a bit of dark chocolate, a bit of a sprig of mint there, and some grapes. And I'm just going to show you some techniques to finish that off. So I'm just going to start with the smallest one. And to that, I'm just going to top it up with some dark chocolate, some just chopped dark chocolate. That's just to give it a bit of texture. So that's just one way you could do it. The second way I would do it as well is just simply put a sprig of mint as I've done, and it looks appealing as it is. And the last but not least, I would probably just garnish this off with a bit of grape on the side like that, and that would just be as easy to serve as that. So as I mentioned earlier, definitely a lot of recipes out there you can try. You can go with savory mousses, you can go with chocolate, you can go with fruit. So many options out there, so please don't be limited to this particular recipe. The technique is very much the same, but do try a whole lot of other things yourselves at home. As I said earlier, very, very simple technique, something you can make ahead of time, something you can make in advance and just be able to serve this at dinner time, just after a beautiful main course. So from the studios, it has been a pleasure being with you today. My name is Chef Andy and I have been your host. And until the next episode, have a lovely evening.